In the quiet town of Winchester, Emily had always imagined her marriage would be filled with laughter, warmth, and gentle words. When she first met Daniel, he seemed like the perfect gentleman, with his calm voice, thoughtful letters, and the way he held her hand as though she were fragile glass. For the first years of their marriage, she believed she had found the partner every woman longed for. But slowly, like clouds creeping across a bright sky, Daniel's love changed. At first, it was small and impatient sigh when Emily forgot to add salt to the stew, or a sharp look when she spoke too long with friends at a gathering. She thought it was harmless, a man simply weighed down by the stress of work, but soon his words sharpened into blades, leaving invisible wounds across her heart. One evening, after a long day, Daniel returned home to find the living room untidy with toys scattered about, their son's laughter echoing through the house. Instead of smiling, he grew furious. He shouted at Emily, calling her careless, lazy, unworthy. Emily stood silent, her hands trembling, her eyes searching for the man she once loved. She tried to calm him, to remind him that love meant patience, but his anger only grew. That night, for the first time, his hand struck her cheek. The sound echoed louder in her soul than in the room. Emily touched her face in disbelief, tears burning her eyes, and Daniel stood frozen, realizing what he had done, but instead of apologizing, he turned away, muttering that she had driven him to it. Days turned into weeks, and the pattern continued. Sometimes it was words, sometimes it was silence, sometimes it was the heavy weight of his temper that fell on her like a storm. Emily learnt to walk on fragile ground, measuring her words, hiding her feelings, pretending that everything was fine for the sake of their child. But inside, a quiet storm raged. She still loved the man Daniel once was, but that man seemed buried under anger, control, and bitterness. One morning, Emily's friend Margaret visited and noticed the fading bruise on her arm. "Emily, you mustn't hide this," Margaret whispered with tears in her eyes. Emily forced a smile and said she had slipped, but the lie tasted bitter. That night, when Daniel shouted again because dinner was late, their little boy, Oliver, stood at the door, his small voice trembling as he cried, "Papa, don't hurt Mama." The word struck Daniel like a dagger, but his pride silenced any remorse. He simply left the room, leaving Emily to comfort their terrified son. It was in that moment Emily realized the truth. Love should never be built on fear. She looked into Oliver's eyes and saw the reflection of a future she could not allow, one where her child believed cruelty was normal. The next day, while Daniel was at work, Emily packed a small bag with her clothes and Oliver's toys. She walked out of the house that once felt like home and knocked on Margaret's door. Margaret embraced her, promising safety, reminding her that no woman deserved to suffer in silence. When Daniel returned that evening to an empty house, the silence was deafening. He searched the rooms, calling Emily's name, but only echoes answered. On the table lay a letter in Emily's careful handwriting. "I loved you once with all my heart. It read, "But love cannot survive bruises, fear, and broken trust. For Oliver's sake, and for mine, I must leave a hope. One day you understand the weight of what you've done." Daniel sank into a chair, the reality hitting him harder than any blow he had ever delivered. He thought of Emily's gentle smile, the way she used to hum while cooking, the laughter that once filled their home. Now all of it was gone, replaced by silence and regret. For weeks he tried to find her, but Emily had chosen peace over pain. She began rebuilding her life slowly, working at a small library, raising Oliver with kindness and teaching him that strength meant gentleness, not violence. The result of Daniel's cruelty was not obedience, nor submission, but the loss of the woman who once loved him more than anything. Emily, though scarred, found freedom and dignity in walking away. Daniel, left alone, discovered that the harshest punishment for a man who wounds love is not anger, but absence, the absence of the very heart he once crushed. And so the story of Emily and Daniel became a quiet lesson in Winchester whispered among friends, shared as a warning, that when a husband hurts his wife, he not only breaks her spirit, but also destroys the very foundation of his own life. Love cannot survive in shadows of pain, and the result of cruelty is always loss.